Inspired by Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, we are going to be drawing some Truffula trees with our foreground, middle ground, and background. So, the foreground is the part closest to the viewer. We draw that at the bottom of the page. You're going to be drawing large Truffula tufts. These should be the biggest on your paper. Don't be afraid to take up space. Draw 2 or 3 depending on how many you want. And then when you're done, draw 2 thin, skinny trunks. Next, draw a line for a hill behind those foreground trees. Now we're going to work on the middle ground. So I'm drawing more Truffula tufts, but this time they're not quite as big. The middle ground is farther away, and so we want to show that by drawing our tufts smaller. Right now mine are overlapping. You can either let yours overlap or you can keep them separate depending on what you're more comfortable with. But don't be afraid to take up space. See how this one here, I moved it closer to the top of my paper? And then I'm going to go over to the side. So use your space and fill it up. We don't want to just cluster things in one corner. Now, for some of these, you can extend your trunk all the way down to that line where the hill is. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's on the top of that hill. It could mean that the bottom of the tree trunk is just behind the hill, and so we can't see it. Another thing you can do is draw your tufts, and then you can have your complete tree trunk. That tree is even farther than those other 4 I drew. When you're done with your middle ground, draw a horizon line. That's where our land is separated from our sky. Be careful to go around the tufts, but it doesn't have to be a straight line. I'm drawing one, but that doesn't mean yours has to be straight. Do whatever you want. So there's our foreground, our middle ground, and it's time to do our background. The background is farthest away from us. That means our trees are going to be the smallest in the background. Next, you can add any extra details that you want. I'm going to add some large Dr. Seuss-like clouds. Because I have space, I'm also going to draw a Dr. Seuss kind of bird. So ignore that mark for now. Start with the neck. I'm drawing these 3 jagged lines, which will come up for my neck. These 2 kind of like bunny ears that are actually going to be the beak. And then the head with a little tuft of hair on top. Eyes, his mouth. And now his body, which I'm just going to make kind of like a lumpy oval. Here are his wings. And kind of to save me time and space, I'm also letting them go off the page. And that's okay. You don't have to shrink things down so that they fit on your paper. Use your space. I'm also going to draw a second one peeking out behind this tree. So there's the neck. This time I did the top of the head first. Now his beak, or her beak, I guess. Eyes, the tuft of hair, and then the body, which is curved. For texture, I'll add a couple lines on their body. And now it's time to color. When I color, I'm either going to do the trees or the background first, but I'm going to stick to one subject, if you will. I'm choosing trees. Using markers and crayons later on, I'm going to add details first with markers and then go back over with crayon to finish up the color. Now, one thing I want to say is that when I show you guys me coloring, I speed it up a lot. That's not because I don't want you to enjoy it or I want to make you overwhelmed because I'm going too fast. But I don't want you to spend 30 minutes watching me color. I want you guys to get coloring. So think of it as I'm letting you see it for inspiration, but I don't want you to wait until the end of my video to get started. If you need to, you can always pause. You could even fast forward so that you can see more of what I've done already and then pause it. It's up to you. don't be afraid to go back in and add more details. Here I'm adding some bushes just because it looked a little plain. And in a moment you'll see me add a lake too. That's okay. That means your brain is still thinking about what's the best composition and how you want your picture to look. That's amazing. The last thing for me is coloring my clouds. You could leave them white, but I wasn't very neat with the sky, so I'm going over them to add some extra color. All right, you guys, there are your foreground, middle ground, and background Truffula trees.